My name is Teresita Blanco, the Artsy sister, and we're reading Saturnastra Melina. This is chapter 25, the Leviathan. Lucrezia and Melina spent their ride back to Sassari disagreeing with each other. Lucrezia was most displeased after discovering that 1,000 of her soldiers had been slaughtered, and she was both amazed and angry at her friend's gambit. She could not understand why Melina had manipulated Augustus into butchering his own men. By the end of the trip, Melina did a public announcement where she declared Lucrezia the new figurehead of Sassari. Lucrezia even went as far as instituting the old training regimen with emphasis on codes of honor. Needless to say, Basila the Frog Princess was out of a job. The courtesan army resented a return to the old way, and Melina's daily rounds had done wonders to win over the populace. And Lucrezia knew this and resented this imagined usurpation of her power, and the army was thus internally split between those that supported Melina and those who sided with the legitimate ruler of Sassari. In order to prevent a civil war, Melina keenly suggested splitting the army into two battalions. The main force would be headed by Lucrezia, and they would thus focus on frontal assaults, while Melina's unit would perform flanking and covert maneuvers. This suited Lucrezia well, since she was keeping the bulk of the army, and she had learned much during her 5-year stay in the martial court of Veragero. She knew the necessity of performing maneuvers that her kingly court would frown upon, and in order to fully release Melina's unit from its nightly restraints, Lucrezia had the brilliant idea of stripping them of their knighthood. She then gave them the title of counts, barons, and dukes as a consolation prize. The new titles were with all of the perks implied by the new titles, and in order to further appease them, Lucrezia allowed them to continue their training regimen with Basila the Frog Princess. It was around this time when Melina was named Countess of Sassari. Melina had no official lands to her name, as it was a general title to illustrate her importance to the city. Contrary to logic, the next trip of the knighthood showed utter disdain at their disgraced positions, and they only demanded monetary compensation for their perceived loss of income, either real or imaginary. As of now, there were only 687 troops in the flanking unit, and Lucrezia had placed the bulk of her military force under her own command, and she would give Melina enough troops to form a legion, but Melina was set on just keeping it at 867. Those closest to Melina were angered by Lucrezia's treatment, and it took much causing from Melina for them to swallow their bile. As she explained to Franny, Lucrezia may be power-hungry, but she's not a monster. She's just trying to do what she thinks is best for her people. But aren't you the least bit offended for what happened, insisted Franny. Why should I be? Lucrezia understands this world better than I do. And she did what had to be done to maintain peace among her subjects, said Melina. It should say so, said Franny, unconvinced. The following night, Melina summoned her most trusted ally for a secret mission, and it was of the utmost importance that only they would know about this new development, and she summoned to her side Baron, Frederick, Sir Walter, and Boris. Of all who came, Boris was the most flattered by this show of trust in his person, and they traveled stealthily to the countryside. Melina even dressed up as a man to avoid detection, and she shortened her beautiful long blonde hair, and the sight of Melina's fallen golden curls brought tears to Baron's eyes. And due to the clandestine nature of her work, Melina sent Basila on another mission to disguise her, and with Basila traveling with Sarah, guided Augustus, and Franny, and Mia. And there were rumors of a third Sori and another Melina look-alike traveling with Elaine and Lord Sailor, and the two were participating in their super-secret hush-hush mission importance. And what they all had in common was that each group thought that they were traveling with a real Melina. So there were like three. They were like the main one and two body doubles after doing weird. Each of the units doing weird stuff. What happened?
Nothing. Keep going.
What were you like?
What? I was just scratching my face.
Why were you pointing at your forehead? You were making weird faces.
Don't worry.
After 2 months' journey, they arrived at the township of Praga. And Praga was a halfway toward Veragero, and the town was situated in the middle of the forest, and a single main road sliced the town in half, and it was surrounded by a forest on either side. Its economy solely depended on war, since they traded iron, wood, grain. In a sense, the town acted as a supply land, and the town was quickly growing as a result of a dragon egg. And Praga had quite a bizarre history, and it even had some registered cases of cannibalism during drought season. And there were many bizarre stories about dragonets, dragon attacks, cursed dragon traditions, and of course, the blood red. And even today, the town was populated with many new bizarre stories, most of them centering around dragons. And when Melina's party arrived, Paragon was entering a new stage in its development. And since the town had strategic borders, it was currently being militarized by the soldiers of Aragon. And for reasons that the locals did not understand, building a stone wall aroused the curiosity, or maybe the ire, of the feral dragons living in the nearby forest, and as of late the town was littered with their brood, and one could not even give a single step without being accosted by a dragon. That's a little tiny little baby dragon. The dragon situation in Praga is still pretty much the same even today. It was this dragon-infested town that stood before Melina's traveling party, and after making it to the shack, foreign boys exclaimed, "By the gods, I have never seen so many dragons before in my life." "Let me guess," said Frederick sarcastically. "Our super secret mission is to buy one of these many SS dragon pups." "Feral dragons cannot be bought," explained Baron. "They are the only untamed draconic species." "How come?" asked Sir Walter. "They have an indomitable spirit," said Melina, picking one up. It was starting to eat in the ends of her traveling coat. Like, you noticed like one was eating part of her clothing. "The little critter seems quite tame for something we all keep calling feral," commented Boris. The dragon hissed at Boris before jumping away from Melina's grasp. He gingerly landed a few meters away with the same gracefulness as a cat. The dragon sniffed the air, and then he climbed over the wall and was back into the forest in less than a minute. Both whistled in admiration at the extreme speed and dexterity of the cat-sized little dragon. "How big does that thing grow?" asked Boris. "The females grow on average 17 meters, and the males only measure 9 meters, explained Melina. "By the gods, those are some really large dragons," exclaimed Boris. "Let's go to the inn now, and I'm quite weary from our travels, and we can continue this discussion later," said Frederick, interrupting Boris. So, like, the town is little with the little one, but the big ones are nearby watching. The inn was located parallel to the barracks, and it was made of bricks and limestone. The choice in construction material was most unfortunate. The dragonlings had a fondness for limestone, and as a result, one would occasionally see a little dragonling nibbling on the walls. The servants spent most of their time chasing those little critters with their brooms, and despite many attempts, no one servant had ever managed to strike a blow on the dragon. And the nights were at least quiet, since most of the dragonlings returned to their nests, and while settling in, Sir Walter took to feeding scraps of food to a nearby dragonling. And like the rest of his kind, the little dragonling had lustrous, deep emerald scales, golden mane, and crimson eyes. Sir Walter found the critter's playful disposition most charming, and he even tried hand-feeding it, but Melina intervened, saying, "Do you want to lose a finger?" "But he has such small teeth, and what's the worst thing that could happen?" inquired Sir Walter. Melina opened her purse and threw an emerald at the dragon. The dragon swiftly caught it with his claw, and the dragon then bit down on the gem, and it crumbled in his mouth as if the gem was made of bread. So, like, if you can eat like a solid emerald as if it's like a piece of bread, imagine if it bites your finger. You're losing that finger. "So what are we doing here?" asked Sir Walter. "Are we here to tame a feral dragon?" "Not really, sorry to disappoint you, but feral dragons cannot be tamed." "What part of feral don't you understand?" said Melina seriously. "Then what are we doing here?" asked Frederick. "You are here as my pack mules, my dear Herr Frederick, and we went to the forest and pick up whatever dragon scales we can find, and a good bulk of them can be found near the nest," explained Melina. "Do you mind if I stay behind?" asked Boris. "Yes, I do mind. You need to get over your fear of dragons. Humans are not on their menu. As long as you don't incur their ire, they will not harm you. Still, I need you guys not to panic when you see one, especially in the middle of a battle," said Melina. "I was under the impression that we were not going to fight dragons," said Sir Walter. "Lucrecia said as much." "It's a working strategy," said Melina, smiling. When the tiny dragonling was done eating, Melina picked it up and handed it to Sir Walter, and she said sternly, "I want you to carry him until he chooses to leave." "Aw, he looks so cute," said Baron mockingly. After they settled in, Melina's party made their way to the outskirts of the forest, and Boris noted the large copper dragon stretching itself beneath the sun. In answer to his perplexed looks, Melina said, "Her name is Flaminka. She is a crossbreed between an alabaster and a feral dragon." "Ah," said Boris, pretending to understand. Flaminka raised her head to gaze at Melina's party with interest, and there was a strange glint in her eyes that made Boris imagine that she could actually understand human tongue. Melina lingered outside the forest for half an hour, and her companions were not too eager to urge her to go inside. And Baron was terrified of Flaminka, and he dreaded running into her pure-blooded companions. Said Melina, staring at Flaminka. Baron opened his mouth to say something, but Melina said, turning her face to the forest, "Our guide has finally arrived." The guide was a stout man of more than 6 feet tall, and he had a satirical smirk and the strangest hat anyone had ever seen. The hat and his clothing were an odd light pink color, and they also had a bizarre design, and he also carried a staff made of wood and iron with decorated triangles, and he was carrying a large knapsack and 6 wicker baskets, and one inside the other, and he handed each of them a basket based on the amount that he guessed each person can carry. Sir Walter felt somewhat offended that Melina was carrying the largest backpack. As Melina put it on the backpack, Boris noted the clanking sound of something which sounded like glass, and the strange man said in a deep voice, "Be careful when setting down that basket." "I will be fine, thank you, Kurt." Right, you guys don't know Kurt. I know him from way back. He's a dragon dietitian and a healer, explained Melina. "I do not know what dragons got sick and what dietitian," said Boris. "It is my job to make certain the dragons are eating right, and one must be careful with a dragon's diet. Their powers are much dependent on the food that they take," explained Kurt. Kurt reached into his knapsack and brought out something which looked like perfume, and he said in a stern voice, "Before we go in, spray some of this on your person." Boris grabbed the dubious little-looking perfume bottle and asked, "Is this dragon piss?" "By laws, what is wrong with you?" said Kurt, looking at Boris with disgust. "No, it's a strong aromatic perfume. My nose is sensitive, and I can't stand the stench of you people. Especially you, little elf. Well, you smell just fine." Friday, Sir Walter and both put it on the perfume, and since it was nearly winter, they had stopped bathing regularly, and they could not even stomach the cold, freezing plunges that Melina and Baron used to take in the river. And it wasn't that Baron was immune to the effects of cold water, rather he used a spell to make the water around him warm. Once they put it on their baskets, Kurt danced and shouted with his staff, and then he said, "I have put it on a charm that will make the dragons ignore your presence." Feeling reassured, Melina's party entered the forest, following Kurt. And while walking, Baron came out behind Melina. He whispered to her, "Was that some kind of spell?" "It's not a spell," said Melina. "I don't get it. Is it like a blessing or something?" insisted Baron. "No, it's like a hex or a curse, but with positive effects," explained Melina. "Ah," said Baron, and he began not paying attention to what Kurt had done or said. After walking for an hour, they had not run into a single feral dragon, and Sir Walter felt that they were nearby, and the leaves in the tree branches were constantly rustling in a bizarre fashion. And though the woods were thick, Baron noted the large spacing between each tree, and only small growths and shrubs conveniently grew between each tree. And they eventually arrived at a large clearing of the forest, and this clearing was around a watershed, and smaller streams from different sources were combined in this very location, and from beyond the watershed grew the seasonal Emerald River, and its stream was always changing location, and it only appeared during the rainy seasons in the south. And they found there several feral dragons roosting, and the larger heavy-built females guarded their eggs jealously, and while nesting there, a large green female scratched off excess scales, and Frederick noted that some of the eggs weren't guarded, and he asked her, where are the mothers of those eggs?" "Hunting," answered Kurt. But why aren't they incubating the eggs?" insisted Frederick. They are for whoever wants to take them. Feral mothers can only rear one young at a time, but they lay a cluster of 5 to 10 eggs, and the first egg that hatches is usually the one they raise," explained Kurt. "And what happens is they hatch and there is no mother to look after them," asked Baron sadly. "What do you think happens?" said Kurt sarcastically. "They starve to death," said Baron, frowning. "Not really. Feral dragons can survive on a diet of just about anything, and without their parents, infants have enough instinct to stay with one another. And without a number, they can have more prey, even if it takes them longer to master stealth skill. And the instances are rare, since lone females and even males often rear the young of their peer. Adoption increases the survival rate of their kind," explained Kurt. "We are not here to listen to lectures about dragons. Now hop to it. Go get the scales around the nest, and if you find any large oak trees, go there as well." And males tend to wrap around those trees to shed their whole skin at once. "And also get some of those tiny little baby dragon scales," said Melina. Melina's party found around the nesting ground, and Baron noted a large nearby oak tree, and indeed he found an intact dragon hide, and it took much effort to pry it from the tree. And even though it was hollowed out, the skin was 5 centimeters thick and wide and heavy. Baron folded it as best he could, and then he placed it inside his basket, and he was forced to drag the basket across the floor. And a baby feral dragon saw Baron dragging the bag, and he decided to pull out the leather strap, and it took much time for Baron to notice, and it foolishly seemed to him that the basket had gotten lighter. Boris busied himself by sorting through the gravel around the nest, and he found scales missing with silvery pebbles around the watershed. And most of them were untapped, since the dragon hunters prefer the larger scales of the adult dragons. And close to sunset, the watershed got a bit crowded. Feral dragons of all sizes were gathering there to drink from the lake, and their presence greatly alarmed Melina's companions. However, current Melina's serene behavior placated their fear. As for the dragons, they coolly ignored their tiny visitors. Only their smaller dragonlings showed any interest. So like the adult dragons were like, they're the humans coming to pick up our dead skin, and the baby dragons were like, ooh, what is that? Is that a human? So like only the little baby dragons like take an interest in like the humans, while the big ones were like, meh. I've seen humans for like the last 500 years, and I am not impressed. Meh, they'll be dead in an hour. A few took to apishly imitating Bo's behavior, and thanks to their help, Bo was able to fill up his basket with dragonling scales. Kurt was the object of most admiration, and he would get on top of the dragon and trim large strands of mane, and he would cut it using a special opal-like knife whose blade had a glistering diamond edge. Melina gathered a healthy stack of even-sized hard scales, and Frederick gathered whatever he could find. As for Sir Walter, he was half drawn to the odd, shiny items in a few of the unguarded nests, and he found a jester the size of a fist, and he was about to put it inside his basket when Kurt struck his hand. Sir Walter snapped, we're collecting dragon scales only, and if we loot the dragon's treasure as well, we can easily fund 10 armies. For shame, Walter, stealing for an unborn dragon, said Melina. So Walter felt quite ashamed indeed for stealing the unborn dragonling's food, and he even imagined that the adult dragons were looking at him with disapproval. And when the sun was no longer visible over the canopy of the trees, Melina felt it was time to head back. Kurt easily tracked down those who had wandered off, and when they got outside the forest, Frederick noted a traveling merchant's caravan camping outside the outskirts of towns, and most merchants prefer to camp out outside the towns and city. Melina came to one of the cars and knocked at the door twice, and the door was open ajar, and there was an empty cart inside, and Melina put her basket in with the others. And she then said to Frederick, I want you to set up shop here for 2 years, and this merchant will pick up the crates of dragon scales once a week. As you wish, my lady, said Frederick, bowing. Sir Walter then reached into his pocket and brought out a tiny book, and he wrote down some numbers in charcoal pencil, and then he handed it to Frederick, saying, these are my measurements, and I want made with the thickest dragon scales you can find. Remove a couple of inches away, Sir Frederick, and you have been getting fatter, Mr. Walter. When was the last time you wielded your sword? Asked Melina. 6 months ago, said Sir Walter, flushing. A pity, said a stranger who was eavesdropping. Also, Baron, I want you to return to Sassari, and you're going to stay there permanently until I tell you otherwise, ordered Melina. Yes, mother, but I see Master Suberos is not going to like this, said Baron, frowning. His name is Sibano, and it is not your master, Baron. I am. Now do as I say, or else, said Melina, shaking her fist playfully. Or else what? Asked Boris out of curiosity. Or else he will suffer a painful death, said Melina, looking serious. Baron took it as a hint that something bad was going to be happening in the tower, and quite soon perhaps, and he was inclined to warn Sibano. However, he knew that Sibano was likely to dismiss Melina's ominous warning. After the delivery to the merchant cab, Kurt returned to the forest, and with the word that Melina's party returned to the inn. And they were all feeling famished, but all but Frederick ate their meals in their respective rooms. And while drinking at the bar, Frederick imagined that he saw a familiar face. He could not place where he had seen that man before, and he mentioned this to Melina. Since there was a forest nearby, he figured that Melina had entered within to perform her night wanderings, and when he came to the outskirts of the forest, Frederick was happily surprised to see Kurt waiting for him. And with his help, Frederick was able to track down Melina, and she was whimsically following the stream, and unlike her previous night, she was dressed in black robes, and her short blonde hair tucked away within a nondescript hood, and aside from her pale, handsome face, she could easily pass for a shadow. Melina stopped and she gazed at Frederick, and quick to the point he said, "I saw a strange man in a group at the bar. I can't say, but there's something familiar about him." "Ah, yes, Sterling Guy. I know when you speak. I noticed him traveling with the merchants, and he was also one of the foot soldiers training with the army, and the guy plays many roles, and he takes full advantage of his nondescript looks," explained Melina, coming to stand before Frederick. "Sterling Guy? Never heard of that guy," said Frederick, chuckling. "I'm not surprised. He's a spy master of the eldest, and he has one of the largest, most complex spy networks in the kingdom, and most of his underlings do not even know that they work under him. If he is here, that means that they are onto us," said Melina. "That could be a problem," said Frederick, frowning. "Not to worry. I have a diversion on the way," said Melina, smiling, and she added, "For now, just focus on the task at hand." Alright, I finished the chapter.